Hello students, I hope all of you fine. Today I start my discussion from the second phase of the narrator's life. So in the second phase what happened? It is a description about life in the city. So as soon as the narrator and his grandmother shifted at the city, that portion became the turning point in their friendship. So now what is the turning point? So turning point here means, so when they used to live together in the village, at that moment they became the good friends to each other. So they used to spend maximum time togetherly. Grandmother used to get him ready for the school, and even grandmother always accompanied to the school. Even grandmother used to help him in his studies, and grandmother always accompanied with the author at the school also, because the school is attached with the temple. The author used to sit in the veranda of the temple, and grandmother used to sit inside the temple and read the scripture. So this is a very simple life which they have spent together in the village. But as soon as they shifted at the town, and at that moment what happened, their way of life, it's totally going to be changed here. So this is called here turning point. Means now the grandmother and grandson not able to give time to each other, because the grandson or the narrator started going to at English school in the city by a motor bus, and where grandmother unable to accompany with her grandson, and grandson or the narrator started reading English school. So in English school, all the subjects matters are different. It is not like the village school. In village school, the author was taught by his grandmother the alphabet and the morning prayers. So these are the quite familiar topics and subject matter of grandmother. But the English school and its subject matters are totally unknown for grandmother. As I told you, the theme of the story is what? Old world versus new world. So grandmother is quite familiar with the old world, and now the grandson is going to be belongs to the new world, that is the modern world. So being a man or being a brought up child, now he started to take the modern education system and its subject, and that modern education in its subjects matters are totally unfamiliar, unknown for the grandmother. So in that way, grandmother was unable to help his grandson in his studies as she used to do in the village, and at the same time grandmother unable to accompany to the school also, because the grandson started to go at the school by the motor bus, where for the grandmother is not possible. And that's why at the same time grandmother found another one difficulties also, and which is unfamiliar with her village life. That is what? Now she was unable to feed the dog as she used to do. So as a replacement or as a substitute, she chose the sparrow's bird of her courtyard, and where she started to feed. So in that way, after shifting at the village, grandmother started her friendship with the sparrow's bird here. And now the grandmother feel a little bit empty in the absence of her grandson. So grandson started to give his maximum time about his own studies and about his own school. So in that way, grandmother slowly started her good friendship with the sparrow bird here. So like that, the turning point has created between in their friendship. Due to busy schedule, the author unable to give her time, and in his absence, grandmother started her friendship with the sparrow. But grandmother never stopped inquiry about grandson. Whenever the narrator or grandson returned back from the school, grandmother always inquired about him. What subject matter do they taught you, and what are the topic the teacher touches today. So all those things she inquired about it. And grandmother was not like the modern education and its subject matter like science, Archimedes, law of gravity. All those subjects matters are totally unknown and unfamiliar for her, and even she disliked all those subjects also. So, and in short, she does not like the modern education and its system. And the grandmother was distressed to know about there is no teaching about God and scriptures. So when she come to know from the author that in their modern school there is no teaching about the God, there is no teaching about the religious matter, religious ethics, at that moment she became much distressed. Means she was very unhappy to know about all those. And one day what happened, after returning from the school, the author informed her grandmother as usual that he was taught on that particular day a lesson about the music. So whenever grandmother came to know that author was taught with the lesson of music, from on that day onwards, grandmother stopped talking with her own grandson. So grandmother believed that musics are not for gentle folk. It is for beggars or some women folk, some group of women folk who perform dance and singing before others for their livelihood. So after by dancing or by singing, they collected some money, and like that they survive. So grandmother believed that musics are not for gentle people, it's for harlot or monopoly and for the beggars. For the beggars, she thought like that. That's why when she came to know that her own grandson started to learn music, that makes her much disappointment. She was much hurt at that moment. So on that particular day, she completely stopped talking with her grandson. So this is a description about second phases of the life, first and second paragraph. And in that way, the life, the beginning life of the city ended. So now the author childhood is completely finished in second phases of the life. Now the third phase is going to be start in the author's life. That is what? Now the author's school life is completely over, and now he's quite young now. In that way, he has taken the admission in university. So when he was taken the admission in university, when he started to going to the university, at that moment, grandmother and grandson's relationship is now going to be totally snap. So totally snap means totally going to be what it said, destroyed in one word. So how it would be destroyed, you see, when he was a child, when the author was a child, after shifting at the city, though they are unable to give each other time, because the author is given maximum time towards his studies and at his school. So in that way, in that moment also, they constantly used together to live in the same room. So in that way, maybe at night, at least they can see each other, or if they insist, they can talk each other during the sleeping time. So in that way, their physical attachment was continue up to that moment. But when the author started going to the university, at that moment, the author was given a separate room. So they started to live in separate room. At that moment, what happened? Their friendship was totally snapped, totally broken. So the way of their life, here is going to be transformed to another way. So now they are completely separated to each other. So that's why it was snapped at that particular moment. So at that moment, how grandmother felt? Grandmother felt like that she was just resigned from one particular job. So for example, one person, say I'm taking here one example of one particular service holder. So he works near about 35 years in one particular department. Now the retirement came for him. So after when he or she becomes 60 years, at that moment he or she would take the retirement from his job, and which job he or she was much attached or has been attached since the 30 or 35 years old. So here also what happened, from the childhood to his adulthood, author and the grandmother constantly used to live together. But as soon as grandson grown up, when he started going to the university at the time, now grandmother's part from her grandson life is going to be finished here. Now the author is fully matured. He's grown up. Now he can take responsibilities of each other without the help of the other. So that's why grandmother felt at that moment that she has taken the resignation from the part of her grandson's life. So at that moment she find out, again grandmother find out how another way to pass her own life. So at that moment what she has done, from morning to till evening, she started to sit before the spinning wheel. She will the spin, and at the same moment she recite the prayer song. So in that way she now started to passing her time. After all, she felt like that she has taken the resignation. Now she has taken the retirement from the part of her grandson's life. So that's why she engaged her mind, herself in that way. After all, she is a religious woman. In the beginning of this, I have already told you that she is a very pious, she is a very honest, she is a very religious woman. Being a religious woman, from morning to till her sleep at night, she always to chanted the God's name, inaudible prayer. All the time her lips moved constantly, and at the same time she used to count the beads of the rosary also. As much she count the beads of the rosary, that much she chanted the God's name. So now she completely devoted towards the God. That's why from sunrise to sunset she before the spinning wheel and will spin the wheel like that, and she recite the prayer song. And only in the afternoon she used to take half an hour rest. And that half an hour rest goes to whom? That half an hour goes to the sparrow's bird. She used to feed the sparrow. And when she feed the sparrow at afternoon for half an hour, at that moment what happened, the sparrows comes to sit. Some sparrows come to sit on her head, some used to sit on her shoulder, and some used to sit on her leg. Her complete body was covered by seated by the sparrows, because so many sparrows comes togetherly at that moment when grandmother feed them during the afternoon, to take that crumbs, pieces of the bread, means crumbs, which grandmother used to throw them as a food to the sparrow. So when they come to take that food at that moment, grandmother was surrounded by 1,000 sparrows with the veritable bedlam of the chirruping. So when they sit on grandmother head, on her shoulder, on her leg, and other part of the body, at that moment grandmother never showed any angerness, any aggressive mood to them. He just smiled on them when they were seated on her body, and she just showed and smiled to them, and she didn't do to flee away from her body. So like that, grandmother made a good friendship with the sparrows here. So she spent the best moment of her particular day. That is the half an hour moment which she used to spend with the sparrows. That moment became the happiest moment of grandmother's life of a day. So this is the second phase about the narrator's life. In the second phase, first of all, we see that life in the city. Life in the city begins with the school life, and next one is about what? In the life in the city, it is about the author started going to the university, and at that portion their friendship was completely broken. So though it might be internally it remained, but physical attachment that was already snapped in the second phase of their life. So in the third phase we'll discuss about when the author went to the abroad and the grandmother's death. Only the two phases left out to discuss about this story. So in one video, as I told you, it's not possible to discuss about whole because here is a technical problem. So I hope now you understand about the second phase of the author's or grandmother and grandson's relationship. So in next video I would upload the third phase and where it will be end up. So for today I'm stopping here. I hope you watch this video and you get to know more about the lessons for today. Thank you.